Buddy, trying to pick up and move forward a lot of work that was done right before the pandemic, and some of the work goes all the way back to 2015. And we are just trying to see if these needs that have been assessed are still appropriate, and we're trying to figure out how the community is prioritizing the solutions that we have on the table in draft form for those needs. So for instance, and again, it's 28 people. This is not scientifically valid. We're not going to use this to make decisions, and we're also going to ask far more people to take this survey. But for example, we asked people about kind of 4 pieces. We have a fields design, we have a performing arts design, we have a cafeteria and kitchen design, and we have, I would say the most preliminary of all, a sort of gym concept for an indoor gym. And we were just asking people in terms of what we need, what is most important to the district, how we prioritize those things. Just to get kind of a dipstick on where the community is. The people that came out tended to, as you might expect, be the people that are invested in those kinds of things. We have some staff from our athletics department, we have some coaches, we have some staff from our performing arts departments. We have Val, who is I think she's the music director for both the musicals, the middle school and the high school. And so we had a lot of great contributions. And so, for instance, we asked people to rank, the 4 things, 1, 2, 3, 4 in order of most importance. The thing receiving the most #1 votes was the Performing Arts Center. The second most was the indoor gym space. The third most was the cafeteria, followed by the field. But what's interesting is there's a wide disparity, right? Because the gym space got the second most first votes, but it also got the most 4th place votes. So the people who are passionate about it clearly are very passionate about it, but then there is a whole group that pushed that all the way to the back. We asked people if you could only address one need, which would it be? 43% of people said the Performing Arts Center, which was you would expect that. And then we asked people if you could eliminate only one part of the project, which would it be? 54% of people said the indoor gym, followed by the fields, and then cafeteria and performing arts. So in just a very dipstick way, we have a lot of enthusiasm for Performing Arts Center. And I think that's really interesting. Then we had people just rate your enthusiasm for a bond that would address all 4 needs between 1 and 10. 10 got the most responses, so people were very enthusiastic. But we had responses all the way 1 to 10, right? So there's no sort of universal thing. If we ask people if it's just the fields, performing arts center, and kitchen, no indoor gym, it gets more enthusiastic. Basically, there's only 3 responses below 5. We asked people for a bond that would address just the performing arts, the kitchen, and the gym, so that would be no fields. We have more below 5, and actually the most popular then would be 5. People are sort of bad on something that has no fields. We asked, I'm not going to go down every single one, but there's a ton of enthusiasm. We said, what if it was just the Performing Arts Center in the kitchen? We have a big split. We have 8 people that are zeros, but then we have 20 people that are enthusiastic. So, there's no obvious consensus, but there is clearly some enthusiasm. And we say, if we were to do just the fields, that's a non-starter. We're going to do just the fields in the gym. Lots of zeros, 1s, and 2s. People do not like that. Something that's just the gym, they would not support that. And then I asked, okay, given all the information presented, and regardless of what total plan goes forward, what do you think is the amount of money the towns of Brandon and Gloucester would support for the bond? This is, again, not, scientifically valid. It's 28 people. 47% of people say it totally depends on the plan, but more than 25 million isn't out of the question, which I was surprised by. I was legitimately surprised by that. The The second most was 15 million. I had them in grades from, I had less than 5, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and then that more than 25. And then we had, the next highest is 25 million, in the middle is 20. So it seems like there's some appetite for a significant size bond from the enthusiastic people that showed up at the bond listing session, right? I would not say that they are in any way representative of, Joe taxpayer. But, I wanted to see what the kind of tolerance was for numbers, and clearly they cared more about what the plan was than what the price tag was. I think what the message we heard was, if the solution delivers the bang for the buck, there is, some willingness to support a significant size bond. And I think we heard that they're gonna need to know all the details, right? I think even a supportive crowd like that, the messaging that I heard loud and clear is that they want all the T's crossed, I's dotted. They, not just the needs assessment, but the decision making. They want to know who the electrical engineer is that came up with the plans. They were, which I think is good. I want that invested crowd, and it was just a really good, messaging to me that they are willing to support our kids, but they want to make sure that we've done all the work that's appropriate. And so Diane and Greg and I were just talking earlier today about timeline. I'm not sure we'll be able to get the 100% ready to go plan ready by June, which is something that we were sort of aiming for, but we're gonna keep trying. I think I'm gonna try to do another listening session in May with a little bit more information. We're also gonna distribute, Craig is gonna send out an email through School Messenger with a link to the video of the presentation and then a link to the survey. So we'll see what the next batch of responses comes through, and I'll be able to tell, how much of a difference there is between that. I have to be there on, the first listening session crowd and more of our community at large, and a little bit less of a, sort of time investment and buy-in. So I'll be able to see what the delta is there. Is it the same? Is it different? That'll give us more data, and we should get that out like tomorrow, right? Yeah, so I'll have another set of data by the time we meet on Wednesday. So that'll be cool. Final thoughts that people had to offer. There was a lot of, I let people have a text-based response. A lot of people saying things like, the music teacher would like the music teacher space to be bigger, right? So, I mean, there's some targeted things that we heard in the feedback. But I would say in general, what they want is something that supports the kids, that has everything knocked down. But we heard a couple of different times, don't do the cheapest thing. Make sure that what we do really does address the problem. It doesn't just sort of address the problem. And I think it may be that we do fewer of the pieces, but we do them in more permanent and satisfactory section. I think they would rather have, and I'd be interested if other people are there. What I gained from it was people would like the solution to really address the problem, and they'll support it. They don't want us to try to do everything just to check all the boxes, is what I was hearing. So anybody else was there, want to comment anything you feel like I missed? I was talking for a lot of it. Any messages that you think? Go ahead, Cole.
So I think you took away from it something different than I did, and that was they wanted, I understand where you were coming from, where it was a public forum for people to say what they were looking for. Right. But then we start down the road by presenting numbers on that screen. That's where it started getting derailed.
I agree.
So it's either you're gonna do it or you're not. And I feel as though last night was a major derailment for us.
In what way?
First of all, we sat here not too long ago and discussed that if we're going to do this, we're going to do it the right way, and we weren't going to rush it.
Right.
Next thing you know, I get an email stating that we're going to have this meeting in about a week and a half or 2 weeks, however long it was. I felt as though that was extremely fast.
To do the listening session?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because I felt as though we hadn't completed what I thought we were going to do in this group first. Because I haven't even heard from any of the administration here. I think a big important piece we didn't have there last night was our athletic director. Because that is a huge piece of this project. And we haven't heard from those people. I know that you did years ago.
Yeah.
And I completely understand that, but I think so much time has gone by. That I'm not saying we can discount all that stuff, but I think that we need to revisit it.
Yeah, no, and I think that's what I'm trying to do. The listening session for me was trying to almost get back at the beginning to hear, what the priorities are.
Which I think was good, except for when we start throwing out the 5 million, the 15 million, the 25 million, what's that do to everybody? It's like,
I tried to put a little Toby in there to let people know these are like really ballpark, like the Toby is your friend.
and I understand that, but with the current climate in the economy. Once you start putting numbers on the screen, that's where everybody's mind's going. This is great, but what's it gonna cost?
Yeah, and I think, what the balance I'm trying to strike is, like, everybody wants an indoor gym. And I was trying to give people a little bit of an idea for. Is it still a priority if it looks like this kind of price tag,
But again, we discussed this. If we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it the right way, right? So if we need that gym, then we need that gym. If we need a new baseball field, then we need a new baseball field. But we're not gonna nickel and dime this thing and then come out with a half product at the end, which we already discussed here, and we already decided that's not what we're gonna do. And I feel like that's kind of where it started going.
I think so for me, and I don't disagree with anything you just said. I just think that if we go down we said we need this indoor gym, right? The needs assessment are clear that we need this indoor gym. But if the community comes back and says, under no circumstances would we ever consider 25 million, I don't want to pay an engineering firm to do $20,000 worth of drawings when I know there's no support for it in the community. And I feel like that would be wasted tax dollars. And so I didn't want to go forward with, say, okay, RBC, we want to see like drawings and, I need an estimate. And, we spend what, $17,000 just on the estimates for the fields and the kitchen and the cafeteria. So I didn't want to I did not want to spend that much more money if there was no appetite. And I think what we heard is that there is appetite.
Again. But I think we also need to look at what do we need? There's wants and there's needs.
100%.
And do we even have a clear aspect of what we need and what we want? Do we know what the differential is there?
Yes. I don't know. We know, the needs, so it gets to one of the comments that we had from the attendees where, we talked about, vision versus responding to the needs, right? And we've done the needs assessment. We asked all of our coaches, what's the biggest need we need in athletics? They said indoor gym space, right? We looked at the number of students who are playing basketball in the winter, do not have enough space for them to practice every day. Right, the middle school, boys and girls have to like alternate days. Kids are coming in at all hours. We know we don't have enough seats in the gym for everybody who wants to come to a boys basketball. Like those are all demonstrable needs. But I don't want to put in, and I agree with you, I want to do it the right way, and I don't want to, try to use a crystal ball. But if we also need this kitchen and this Performing Arts Center, we also need these fields, and we put them all together, and it's too big a number, and then they all fail, then we don't get any.
I get that, but if it's a need, if this roof came down today, we would need a new roof, right? It doesn't matter what the price tag is, we need it.
But that's a different kind of need.
Is it?
Yes.
We could not function as a school with a giant hole, top of our roof. We would have to fix that.
I mean, it's arguable that we're getting close to that with all of these things. You've got kids playing across in the parking lot, you know, like, to say that we don't know what the needs are, it's, I take a little issue with that. I think if you're here, you're participating in the school community, and you're spending time in these buildings, and you're talking to these kids and these staff. I mean, the outpouring support for different things across the staff last night was pretty remarkable. I mean, some of these are teachers going out on a limb to show up and kind of like speak out about essentially their employer, the community they live in, to say like, I'm advocating for these kids. So also, maybe we didn't talk so many numbers. You think some of those people weren't gonna raise their hand and say how much is the problem? There's no way you're gonna get that question. You know, like the idea is to get some input so we can keep moving. Like this whole chicken or egg, what order are we doing this conversation is driving it.
Right, Jason?
So for me, I feel like the doing it right doesn't necessarily mean we do it all. It means that the parts that we do well, we do correctly. We mean those means we're not just putting a Band-Aid on it. But we're also planning for the future, making sure that we leave those options open to be able to add additional parts. If those needs do rise at the level, we have to address it. So if we go to, say, the gym, we've got a plan in place of how we would do the gym, where it would go. We have space allocated that we plan for that. So to me, that's doing it the right way, doing it well, not necessarily doing every aspect.
Other thoughts? We're gonna talk about this again, the business meeting, and that sort of thing.
I really liked the gentleman that brought up the idea of,
I'm sorry, we're in a business meeting and
oh, I'm
we're
sorry,
gonna have
sorry,
public comment.
Sorry. I first, sorry,
No,
I
it's
first,
it's quite all right, I understand.
Sorry.
We're talking as a board,
okay, sorry.
unfortunately. But you want to email me your thoughts, I will have them. Other thoughts, Jim, you have anything?
And we basically said what I was thinking, we don't want to do something and then we don't have work to expand, put the gym in the right place. I guess that's what I think some people sense when you kind of put up that previous plan, that it wasn't compatible with the current plan. So I think that it kind of undercuts that.
No, I think so too. Yep.
Wasn't really so much stated last night, but I think the case could actually, somebody could make a case if they chose to say that we expanded our offerings without having any buildings. And then maybe the solution like doing it to us for. I'm not advocating for that, that's not my point. But the point is that we've allowed the programs to grow without a facility big enough to hold it. And an equal case could be made that the solution is not more building, it's less opportunity. It's true, if you don't want to spend money. So I think we have to be very aware of this community, we're very petty conscious of how we drive a need. And needs, I think that was kind of what kind of gonna be, oh, you did a needs assessment. Yeah, well, who expressed the need? Did the athletic department express a need for more floor space because all the students are playing? Did teachers express, did your equal number of teachers express a need for? No, I don't. I think we have to work on that message. So I think we got sidetracked a little bit in there last. It's one of the things I thought about our undersized gym. It's like, all right, you're right. The basketball players have to sit in the stands where there's no bench space. Well, what would it cost us to create bench space and eliminate 20 seats to help them? Because why do we provide basketball? The athletes, the public come see.
Yeah.
What, so ultimately. Again, what is the purpose, what is the need, how do we define it? And when does the need become a want? That the public needs to buy into if they want to come. If they want it to grow, if they want a future for it. And I think all of that needs to be part of the conversation. At the same time, I think we move to the kitchen. Cafeteria. As it stands now, our kitchen cafeteria are inadequate. And our kids don't have the time to eat because they're in queue. We have multiple lunches because flow, and kitchen, and all the other stuff. That needs to be addressed as though the roof fell off. Because the kids are already not eating, they're already wasting food. So there are a couple of different questions and explanations that happen before we develop. I feel especially that way on the chair. Yeah. Okay, I'm not convinced we're making maximum use of all the places in the district, all of them. Maybe it needs a bus, well, that's not a question. But is there a square footage to be used before we put anything else forward? I think we need to answer the question and be ready for the answer that people ask.
Yeah, I admit that some of this is trying, on my end, is trying to not lose so much work that's been done. But a lot of the feedback that I'm receiving, and I'm telling you that I hear it, is there's some square one stuff I guess we need to do to make people feel confident. Work done in 2018, 2019 is not seen as valid anymore. And that's, I guess, fair. It makes me sad. We had a citizens committee meet 11 times for a year, and produce a needs assessment. And we have basically said that work is useless. People completely discount its findings. And they voted against the bond recommendation they made, so that should not surprise me. So I think I've heard that feedback, and as I said, I've never had an end date that I felt like we had to do this for, and we will give this the attention it deserves. I also want to give this meeting the attention it deserves. So any other thoughts before we keep going? That's a good conversation. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, let's move into new business, which is to consider the 2023-2024 school budget proposal in the amount of 31 million buckaroonies. Greg, the floor is yours.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. This is the culminating effort of 4.5 months. It's one of the most important things, if not the most important thing the school board does. The school board budget vote for 2023-24. And we have for you tonight the culmination of all that work. Thank you. So where we started is by our mission. And you do have a mission statement. Last summer and early fall, you did some visioning work. Who are we as a school board? Who are we as a school district? Who are we as a community? What do we believe in? What do we value? And the school board came with this mission, preparing students for their next step and instilling aspirations through rigorous and relevant educational experiences. So theoretically, everything that you're proposing tonight is a financial representation of this mission statement. So the original proposal, the draft proposal that was presented on March 15, 2023, there have been some changes. There's some new information and some new decisions that came through. So first of all, the health insurance came in from the rating service. And We had put a placeholder of 10%, it came in much lower than that. So we have a 0% increase, which means we're able to reduce $375,000 from that original proposal on March 15. We have gone several years with 3 unfilled bus positions, and we know we're not going to be able to fill 3. So we pulled one right out of the budget as sort of a truth in advertising. We would love to hire all 3 of those people, but we just don't see that happening, so we're taking that out. The school resource officer through the Cumberland County Sheriff's Department was going to purchase a new vehicle. That has been postponed a year, so this money's been taken out. The ice hockey, there had been a little confusion on the fee that we paid for Norway Savings and for our participants on the co-op hockey team. So we were able to take $4,000 out of that. And Diane, who had her finger on the pulse of the global fuel markets, was able to lock us in at a very good price. We had a high placeholder number on that. We were able to take out $50,000 from that original proposal. So the budget adjustments, so those total reductions came out to $526,640. 0 increases, so the net adjustment or the reduction is $526,640. So our budget increase is $1,764,113. 5.98% increase. State aid, so the ED 279, the yellow slip of paper that tells you what your state aid will be, was readjusted. If you remember the newspaper article where the MDOE had made a big accounting error, we had been anticipating a reduction of $414,875,000 in state aid. After they corrected the error, that meant we had a $577,563 increase in funding for the Maine Department of Education. And so you subtract the $414,000. And that leaves us a net increase of $162,688. As a bit of an editorial, there are many school districts in the state that said, oh, we're getting more money, and they started spending more money. We did not do that. We did our needs. What do we need? We did not change or go shopping after that adjustment. The district fund balance increase was a total of $27,000. So a net revenue increase of $189,688 from March 15, 2023.
We'll speak to that 27,000.
Would you like me to speak to it now?
Yeah, I mean, just because it's a weird thing, like why 27,000,
Okay.
might as well do it now.
So this increase from the district fund balance is related to adult education services. And so normally that money is funded outside of the budget. And so I'm going to mangle this. You can help me anytime, Diane.
There, just scroll to the next slide.
Okay.
So to soften the blow of increasing the adult ed spend from 73,000 to 100,000, which is what the finance committee recommended, we decided to roll over another $27,000 from the fund balance, which would make the taxpayer burden the same year over year, giving them sort of 1 year soft landing.
The rationale for this is the district has provided adult education $73,000 from local funds. Most of their funds comes from grants, federal grants, self-pay for programming. They have not had an increase in local budget in 8 years. Yeah, so it's $27,000. You're going to see in another slide that it's a 36% increase. It's a big percentage number, but it's covering inflation for operational costs over the last 8 years. And so that's what this number represents. For revenue from the state aid, last year we received $11,227,167,000. This year, $11,384,855 for a net gain of $162,688. I do recite every number to give the dollars the respect that they deserve, so please bear with me. We used $1,300,000 from our fund balance in 2023 as revenue to help fund the budget. So this is a way of giving money back to the taxpayers, using money that we didn't use from the previous budget. This year, we are doing the same thing. We are using, we have a fund balance, and we're going to use $1,327,000 with a net increase of $27,000 to use as revenue to help fund this budget. Miscellaneous district revenue last year was $316,000. This year it was $396,000 with a net increase of $80,000. A lot of this money comes from the Raymond students. When Raymond children go to high school, they have choice between Wyndham and MSAD 15. I'm proud to say there's been an uptick in the number of students coming from Raymond. So that would be tuition that the town of Raymond pays, football gate receipts, any hard assets we have that we might sell, those kinds of miscellaneous revenue sources. Day one state funding, we do have that specialized program with day one. $117,739,000 last year, the same amount this year. And that amount of funding is ample to provide the services that we need for those students in the form of a teacher and an ed tech. The local required, $12,054,025. This year is $12,580,037 for a net increase of $526,012. And so this is an important number, the local required. So in order for MSAD 15 to get this much money from the state legislature, they're saying that our locality will need to raise this much money. So it's part of the funding formula between the Maine Department of Education and the town of Gray. Why is there a big $526,012 increase? That has to do with valuations. So the price of real estate in Gray and New Gloucester has really increased. So the value of all the property, people's homes, the businesses on Main Street, agricultural land, all of the taxable land, according to the state of Maine, that has increased in value. So therefore, since those two towns are wealthier, we are going to expect them to raise more money to qualify for the state aid. Was that clear? Okay, good. And then additional local revenue, $4,575,772. This year, that will increase to $5,571,185 for a net change of $995,413. And so the yellow slip of paper it hasn't been yellow in over a decade, but I still keep calling it the yellow slip of paper, that tells you how much you are going to get in state aid. Is called the essential services, essential programming services. And that is a calculation by the state of Maine that says, this is the minimum that you need to operate your schools. This is the minimum number of English teachers. This is the minimum number of buses. This is the minimum number of whatever program that you're offering. This number represents what we're spending above that minimum. We're saying, as a school district, we want to spend a little more than the very minimum of what the state says we should spend. And so that's what this number represents. We can give you, I can give you a hard copy of this. Okay, so the warrant articles, and that's what you'll be voting on tonight, is the proposed warrant articles. And so this is, you're gonna have to vote on each of these. These represent all of our cost centers that you fund. Regular instruction, that is regular classroom teachers, $11,909,972 last year. This year is $12,689,093 with a change of $779,121. And I think this is an interesting number. And again, for special education, $5,925,812, an increase of, and this year we're going to spend $6,390,025 with an increase of $464,213. And so we negotiated a 3-year contract with our teachers this year. After a long period of inflation, we negotiated a contract. The average teacher increase is going to be about 8%. And despite that, we are able to fund both those cost centers for significantly lower than the 8%. Career and technical education, that's our students that go to PAS. And what used to happen was there was a complicated formula of how you pay for your students to go to PAS. And the Maine Department of Education did something really smart. The system is now, we inform Maine Department of Education of how many students we're sending to PAS. PAS notifies Augusta of, yes, indeed, these are the students enrolled at PAS. And the state sends a check directly to PAS to pay for those children's education. Because the last few years, some people said, well, how come you're not spending anything on career and technical ed? And we are, it's just routed in a more efficient way. In terms of PAS, we're the second highest sender out of all 16 schools that send kids to PAS. We're the second highest sender. The only one that sends more is Portland, and the school is Portland Arts and Technology High School. So, other instructional co-curriculars is $925,827 last year. This year is $996,924 with an increase of $71,096. This too can be attributed to the contract because the coaches and drama coach and athletic coaches, all those co-curricular activities, their pay is filtered through the teacher contract, but yet it's still, with the new contract, it's still below 8% rate. Student staff and support, $2,643,820 in 22-23. This year it'll be $2,823,532 with an increase of $179,713 or 6.8%. System administration, this is the school board, the superintendent's office, $885,628 last year, $16,899 this year, with an increase of $31,271 or 3.53%. School admin, this would be the administrators, principals, assistant principals. $1,595,924. This year it'll be $1,626,735 with an increase of $30,811 or 1.93%. Transportation, last year was $1,761,511. This year, $1,758,819, or a decrease of $2,692, or as a percent, 0.15%. Facilities and maintenance, $3,241,112 last year. This year is $3,471,637, or an increase of $230,525, with an increase of 7.11%. The debt service, speaking of the bond project, you have, we have a number of projects that were big projects that were bonded out over the last 20 years or so. Last year, we paid $593,097. This year, it will be $573,152, or a decrease of $19,945, or a reduction of 3.36%. And nutrition is $30,000. About 3 years ago, nutrition stopped being entirely self-sufficient. Nutrition's gone through a lot of changes over the last few years. And so we're keeping the $30,000 to help fund nutrition for a 0% change. So the grand total of the budget that was passed by the voters in 2022-23 was $29,512,703. This year, the proposal is $31,276,816, with a net increase of $1,764,113, or a net increase of 5.98%. Which is better than we thought we would be 9 months ago. And so the capital reserve article, as I referenced earlier, the school district does have a fund balance. Part of it we want to use to return to the taxpayers by way of using $1,327,000 as a revenue to fund the new budget. And then the other piece that the finance committee has discussed and forwarded to the board is this Article 18, shall the district authorize the school board of directors to transfer $1 million from available fund balances to the capital reserve fund and to expand said reserve funds as authorized by law or as approved by the district voters at a district budget meeting or at a district meeting. So essentially what you've done is, or what the finance committee is proposing is, the fund balance is a little large. So you have used part of it to as revenue to fund the new budget. And the proposal is this $1 million can be used for a number of things. It could be seed money for a bond project. It could be, we have a terrible winter and we need a new roof. It could be some other foreseen big project or catastrophe where you need a large sum of money. And this is in reserve, and it's used, the ability to do this is by the voters, and the ability to use it is by the voters as well. Proposed budget summary for operating budget in 2022-23. $29,512,703. Proposed this year is $31,276,816. With a proposed increase of $1,764,113, or 5.98%. For the adult ed budget, 2023 is $73,000. And this year it's proposed to increase it to $100,000. As an offset from the fund balance, 36.99% increase. However, I don't think that number. This is for 8 years worth of. It hasn't increased in 8 years, so this is why the increase is big. Important dates for the board and the voting public. On May 3, next Wednesday, the school board will sign the budget warrant articles. On May 18, we have our town budget meeting, our town validation meeting, where we do this presentation and we present every article. The community has the opportunity to comment on each article and vote on each article. And then the budget referendum in the 2 municipalities vote on the budget. And then the very next day, the school board assembles. It's a new school board with new members, and they go through a validation process of that budget vote.
Greg? So I'm sort of the acting finance chair. So when we, last met on budget, we had 3 remaining, parking lot items, and, you know, discerning readers will know how those shook out, but I just want to make it clear. So one was, just taking a look at that, adult education budget and what we want to make a recommendation there. The finance committee, it is the fact that we haven't adjusted upwards in 8 years, but it's also the fact that we've just been paying for it out of the general fund for the last 4 or 5 years, right? So we can put that $27,000 in the budget and be transparent about it, or it can just be a cost overrun by about $27,000 and take it out of the general fund when we don't spend some money on fuel oil or something. We thought it would make more sense to just make it what it costs and be transparent with what it costs. The second thing was making a decision on the carryover from the general fund. When we're making the recommendation for $1 million in the capital reserve, I would say there were 3 big considerations there. One is we still have $1.3 million in ESSER funds in this 23-24 budget environment. It's not represented in this because the taxpayers don't vote on it. It's money that comes from the federal government, but that money is paying for stuff that we use right now. We're gonna have to make some hard decisions on whether we are going to keep some of these ESSER COVID additions or not next year. But essentially, we're losing $1.3 million in federal funds next year. We want to make sure that doesn't represent a cliff. The second thing is, as you'll remember, we used COVID money to refresh all the devices in our district. At some point, those devices are going to need to be refreshed again. We've used this capital money for that. And that again would hopefully avoid a big spike in our technology budget. We'll be able to smooth that out. Or 3, we do have facilities needs. So not only is it the possibility that we might need to, seed a bond. And for instance, and this gets a little bit in the weeds, but for instance, right now, the prime rate is as high as it's been since 1998. If we put forward a bond, that doesn't mean we have to borrow on day one, right? We might be able to use our capital money to extend the date to which we actually do the borrowing to make sure that that prime number gets to a lower number. It gives us more flexibility. Or if we decide not to go forward with a bond, there are, needs that we are going to have to address in, some there are unsafe dugouts, there are, or approachingly unsafe dugouts, there are things that are gonna require, $50,000 here, $100,000 here, if you don't put it into a full bond package. This again makes it so that we don't have to increase our capital investments, in our annual budget, we might be able to take it out of that capital fund, so we felt like that $1 million gives us at least some sort of soft landing in terms of what the budget might look 2-3 years out, so that we don't see a spike in what we're asking taxpayers. And then the third item that we were asked about was the GT position going from 1.4 to 2. And the personnel committee, we had a discussion on that, and if you wanna talk about it, Jason, or?
Sure, so with the dividend amount, we had some discussion around that, there was some. Talking about, trying to remember, the discussion, talking about, being able to offer more, and I think some of it right now, we have one person that, was in 1.6 was the position for what we have currently, is 1.6 that we use. And that's spread out across all of our buildings, we felt like being able to increase that, to that the other, sort of offering, fully, be able to support the efficiency of that program. Increasing what we define.
Yeah, and the other thing is, right now, we actually only have one GT teacher because we can't fill that 0.6 position because it's kind of an odd puzzle piece that we're unable to, and so we have some confidence that we'll actually be able to fill that second position. And as everybody knows, but I will remind anybody watching, the GT program is required as part of those essential services by law. So the 1.4, or I think it's 1.6 is that is the bare minimum that we can offer. And what we're finding is that bare minimum is not allowing us to hire that position. So we need to up that to 2, especially, otherwise we are definitely in danger of not being able to find. So those were the 3 parking lots. Any other questions on the parking lot? All right, oh, yep, go ahead, Laura.
And sometimes participants of our wonderful adopted program, I would still see them actually have something in their value, because they do a great service to the community and for preparing a lot of our young people for good jobs that pay well. And thank you for your justice. It's due to them. They're a great program.
Great.
I see their Monday. It was great.
I'm glad. All right, so unless there are further questions on those parking lot items, I'll open up the discussion to the budget as a whole. Or if someone would like to make a motion that we approve this budget as presented, we could have a second, and then we can have formal discussion on that motion. I will hear either of those. Gary. Okay, now we are in official discussion. Any thoughts on what has been presented?
Yeah,
Yep, go ahead.
the previous version of this presentation, he had at the end, somewhat of a discussion on municipal impacts.
Yes.
That was missing in this one. Kind of wanted to get it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have those notes. Thank you for reminding me. So Diane called up the 2 town offices. So these differences in local revenue, it would affect the town of Gray by 0.92 of mil. Which on a $350,000 house, which the town of Gray says is the new median house value, would be $325 a year. In the town of New Gloucester, it would be a 0.57 mil increase, which on a $350,000 house would be $200 a year. So that's the local tax impact.
.92 and .57 mill rate.
.92. .92 and .57, yeah. And I mean, just for anybody who might be watching, hearing for the first time, the reason that they are different is that the value of the land of those two communities as assessed by the state have grown at different rates. The town of Gray's value is growing faster than the town of New Gloucester. So the state is requiring more from the town of Gray as a percentage of that increase. But thank you for reminding that. Any other thoughts while we're in discussion? All in favor? Opposed? All right. Thank you very much. It's a big deal, but the agenda is not quite over. Because we have to vote separately on those other two items, which are adjusting the adult education budget and allocating the $1 million to fund balance. So could I hear a motion on adjusting the adult education budget as presented?
I saw one.
Thank you, Laura.
Second.
Thank you, Will and Jim. Any discussion on the adult education budget further? All right, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, great, thank you. And can I hear a motion on allocating $1 million from the fund balance to capital reserve?
That we allocate $1 million.
Got it. Thank you very much. Any further discussion on that? All right, seeing none, all in favor? All right, thank you very much. That is the meeting. I appreciate everybody's hard work on the budget. That was a long grind, but I think this is very fair and calculated budget that's going to do a lot of good for our kids and tries to keep the tax impact as low as possible. So I appreciate